So don't all leave. Autonomous vehicles can actually be interesting, even to the micromobility crowd, I promise. And actually, I'm really excited to be here at this conference talking to you because for me, we were just talking about this backstage. For me, Nuro is the company in the AV space that really, I think you see the vehicle. And I think we have a picture of it here. I think it'd be great for everyone to just get a sense of what we're talking about. You look at this vehicle, and for me at least, you sort of imagine all of these new possibilities that AVs kind of potentially unlock. And like, the first thing about it is it's an occupantless vehicle. And then also it does delivery, right? And so these two things have really interesting synergy. So I want to start with the economic opportunity, the business opportunity of delivery, and then we'll get to the design of the vehicle a little bit more. What are the economic factors that make this so appealing, particularly for autonomous delivery?
Yeah, thanks, Ed. So for those who are not familiar with Nuro, our vehicle goes on roads. So these are the vehicles that are designed to be able to travel on public roads, suburban, urban deliveries. To go back to your question on how did we get to this vehicle, right? So we started off with, hey, right now there's a massive transition going on from personal car ownership to shared mobility. When we were in the world of personal car ownership, it was all about designing one vehicle, right? Because every adult, every family is going to have one or two vehicles max. So you have to design one vehicle to work with every single use case that one adult or that one family might want to use it for. That means the vehicle has to be able to fit a family of 5 and has to have enough space in the back for sports equipment for the kids and groceries. And if it's going to be an electric car, the range has to be long enough for a long road trip, right? It's one vehicle that has to do everything. But now that we're moving towards more shared mobility and shared vehicles, we started with hey, we don't have to design one vehicle to do everything anymore. We can flip it the other way around and start with one use case that we want to go after. And then let's design the most amazing vehicle for that one use case. And coming back to Nuro, how we thought about this was, every year, there are about 100 billion vehicle trips in the United States. About 40% of them, almost half, are for shopping and errands, right? And the rest are commuting. You travel to see your friends, right? Road trips and all that stuff. But 40% are for shopping and errands. And we think that for this segment of mobility needs, the type of needs is very different from commuting, from recreational, because the point is not for you to go somewhere. The point is for you to get something, right? And knowing that, we think that, hey, there's an opportunity to redesign a vehicle that is just perfect for this. So what we got to is a vehicle, the first on-road vehicle, to not have a seat for a human, not a seat for a driver, not a seat for a passenger. And that's where the fun got started. When we no longer had to fit a human in, we no longer had to respect the dimensions of a human being anymore. So we make the vehicle smaller. In fact, our vehicle is about half the size of a normal sedan. And because the vehicle is smaller, it gets to be safer, more nimble in suburban and urban areas. It's also cheaper, right? And we don't need to have expensive leather or audio system. So we get to make a vehicle that is cheaper as well. And more importantly, we think that it's going to be safer. Because we don't have passengers inside, we get to flip a lot of safety features that were designed to be for passengers out. Like our vehicle has an external airbag to protect people outside of our vehicle. I know that was a long answer to your question around, hey, what's a new economic opportunity that comes with going after specific mobility use cases?
Yeah, no, I think you touched on the theme of micromobility in a lot of ways, which is using the right, or at least a better, tool for each trip, right? And if you think about a vehicle that's designed for all the things that you want to do with your vehicle and taking that to the store, especially in places, and unfortunately there are still places where just getting on the bike and going to the store is not really an option. Something that is an electric vehicle that is specifically designed just to deliver goods as efficiently as possible, eliminating that sort of general purpose vehicle trip with something much more efficient. So in some ways, for maybe more typical middle American family, in some ways what you're doing is eliminating trips for them in their vehicle that maybe is less efficient. Is that a good way to think about it?
Exactly, and that's what got me really excited about what we do. So when people think about passenger autonomous vehicles, right, they're going to be amazing, they're going to be transformative, they're going to help make your commute trips more comfortable overall, but you still have to get inside the vehicle, right? But in our case, we don't want you to get inside the vehicle. We want to eliminate trips for you, right? You hopping inside a 4,000-pound internal combustion engine vehicle to just go pick up a carton of milk from a local grocery store, we don't think that makes a lot of sense, right? So we want to design this fully electric vehicle to be able to run errands for you, bring things for you, so we get to eliminate trips for every user.
Yeah, and I think in every form of robotics, and certainly for every autonomous driving company, the biggest challenges are around that vehicle, that robot interacting with people, humans. Yes. Humans are always the X factor, right? And you always have that challenge with the vehicles. People outside the vehicle, right? Although I want you to maybe explain some of the things that being occupantless allows you to do. You hinted at some of those, or referenced them in terms of safety for other passengers. For non-passengers, for people outside. But not having to deal with not only the safety and the comfort of the people inside, but even for like a fully driverless robotaxi, I know people don't really appreciate. One of the things that's really hard about these autonomous businesses, one of the reasons they're actually taking longer, it's not all just the driving part, it's that automating those customer service interactions is really, really hard. So as an autonomy company, as a company that's trying to turn autonomous driving technology into a business, how does this occupantless approach sort of give you sort of some of these unique opportunities to kind of make it easier in some ways, or maybe offer like unique advantages?
Yeah, great question. So I think in your question, there's kind of this concept that people tend not to think about, that there's a trade-offs between passenger comfort and safety, right? And what do we mean by that? If we want to drive safely, the best way to drive safely is to drive like your grandparents. It's to drive a little bit more slowly. It's to always respect every single traffic law. It's to, when you get to a more difficult intersection, you might want to avoid that intersection by going around it. When you see a plastic bag flying by and you're not 100% sure whether there's a cat or there's a plastic bag, you might want to slow down. But to the perspective of passenger, if you're inside that vehicle, imagine that your Uber driver drives exactly at the speed limit and keeps slowing down every time there's a bird flying by. You would be kind of frustrated with that kind of experience. But in our case, we don't have that trade-off. For us, if we experience an intersection that is a little bit more difficult to navigate, we can take a 1-minute detour around that intersection. And it's okay. You can wait 1 minute longer for your burrito, right? But again, if you're a passenger inside the car, you will be frustrated. So inherently, because we don't have a passenger inside, we get to optimize all the way for the safety of people outside. Beyond some of the examples that I shared around routing, around software, the hardware part is also exciting too. We designed our hardware to almost be able to self-sacrifice for people outside. I touched on we have so this picture is on the side, so you can't see it. The front of the vehicle has an external airbag, which is really cool when you see it actually pop up. If we are about to enter in collision, just a millisecond before, we can pop that airbag. The front of the vehicle is designed to absorb in energy, something that you can't usually do with a normal passenger vehicle, or you can't do as well because you want to protect, you want to push energy out, right? We have a lot of hardware innovations to just make the vehicle safer for people outside.
Yeah, the external passenger airbag is so cool, and again, it makes so much sense. If you don't have to have a bunch of airbags for the people inside who are actually paying for that vehicle, right? Of course, that's what there's 20 airbags inside the vehicle for the people who've bought it, right?
Exactly.
And 0 on the outside. But in this case, your airbags get to be on the outside. I just think, again, it's one of those things about AVs that people don't think about, and it's not just AVs; it's actually occupantless vehicles, which is a whole other category. And so let's talk about your partnerships. Your main focus, you have a bunch of them. I think probably the one, I was surprised, a survey I saw a while back, it was of Canada, but the Domino's ads that Nuro did, at least in Canada, like across Canada, was like one of the things that people most knew AVs from, which I thought was interesting and cool. And like, there haven't been a lot of ads for it, but so that one was like fairly well known. It was a national ad campaign. Most recently, you have Uber Eats. What are those partners looking for in autonomous delivery and occupantless delivery in Nuro specifically?
I actually didn't know about Canada. I didn't know about that piece. I would encourage folks to go check out the Domino's Pizza commercial. They launched commercial with Nuro last year, and it was really fun. It was a fun collaboration between us and Domino's. In general, when we work with our partners, since the early days of the company, we told ourselves that what we're working on is very ambitious. We are building a fully electric vehicle. We're building an autonomous system. We're also building a large-scale operation to be able to support autonomous vehicles at scale as well. And we told ourselves that we are not going to fall for this trap where we're going to try to do everything ourselves. And one area, and we know that for a new technology like this to succeed, Nuro has to be really good at partnering. And one area that from the start we said we're not going to enter into is to try to build an end consumer service. There are already a ton of companies out there spending billions of dollars every year on customer acquisition, customer retention, customer incentives. We are not going to try to compete with them. Instead, we're going to partner with them and help enable them to be able to do more reliable, more efficient deliveries, right? And so that's kind of like our ethos as a company. We're going to be a system enabler. So with that, we kind of strategically targeted the top 1, top 2 companies in every of the 4 or 5 verticals that we operate in and partner with them and try to learn from them. Ed mentioned Domino's Pizza is one of them, and we learned how to make sure that the cheese on the pizza stays melted, which is really critical in delivering pizza. With FedEx, for example, we are exploring with them how to do return shipping. So instead of you having to go to a FedEx store, now you can put a FedEx package inside our vehicle and we handle all the return shipping for you. So there's a lot of exciting stuff going on the partnership front. But back to your question, Ed, what do our partners look for? So we just announced a partnership with Uber Eats last week. That is a 10-year partnership. So when people think of AV, people tend to think about economics first. It's all about making mobility more affordable. But actually more and more, we are starting to see supply reliability as the #1 reason that our partners want to work with us. Many of our partners are experiencing labor shortages. And on top of that, with gig economy, gig workers, you don't always know how many drivers you're going to get in any hour, in any period, right? On a certain day, maybe your competitor decides to have a driver incentive and they take away all of your drivers. And you can't operate a logistics business that way without having a reliable logistics network. And with AV, now all of a sudden, they can control the number of drivers they have. Right? If you want more drivers, you tell us in 3 months, we get you more vehicles, right? And they will always know for sure how much supply they will have access to. So this is sort of like maybe kind of one interesting thing that people tend to not think about as much in the AV space, that hey, it's all about economics. It's not just about economics. That reliability within the logistics network is also as important as economics itself.
Yeah, supply chain resiliency, I think, is something, it was something I was actually thinking about like a year or so ago, and just over this pandemic has just proved like how important that is. And I think even at the consumer level now, obviously everyone in business knows it's important, but at the consumer level, I think people understand things just aren't what they used to be. And that 24-hour delivery or whatever that you used to always be able to set your watch by is just, it's not a thing almost anymore.
Exactly. Speaking
of the pandemic, I was sort of curious. I mean, you're in the delivery business. Obviously, there was this huge boom then. There's all these questions about how much of that is permanent transition. What are your just thoughts about that generally? Now that we're sort of we're all here in person, hanging out, getting to shake hands, and what's going on with the delivery business? Sort of what are the wins looking like in that area generally?
Yeah, I think the pandemic has helped accelerate the whole delivery space by 5 years, and there's no turning back now. One little known fact is, when people think of Uber, for example, right, the original product was ride-hailing, and they introduced Eats later. But turns out on-demand delivery is now bigger than ride-hailing. industry as a whole. It's 1.3 times the size of ride-hailing. So on-demand delivery has become such an important part, critical, integral part of everyday life now. And we're not seeing any decline at all in terms of delivery volumes after the initial COVID spike. So I believe it's here to stay. Once people are used to the convenience of getting anything delivered to you in any hours within 30 minutes, it's hard to go back to the world before this.
Yeah. So on that, the resilience point you were making, it reminds me a lot of some of the robotaxi companies, really over time discovering that their sort of unique advantage in mobility, in personal mobility, is sort of consistency.
Yes.
Right? Consistency of experience, especially compared to human-driven ride-hailing, right? There's a variety of cars, variety of drivers, driving styles, odors, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So sort of like the McDonald's of mobility thing. But maybe I'm curious, you mentioned again the resilience it's a huge underappreciated part of it. On the user experience side, though, are there things that a robot such as Nuro's can do that brings another element? So it's not just about reliability, about consistency. That there is actually another element of that you're not necessarily going to get from a human delivery.
Yeah. Let me share one stats with you, Ed. So there was a national survey of food delivery drivers. 28% of food delivery drivers admitted to have stolen food from the customers during trips. 28%, 1/4, right? And that speaks to when it comes to food, you probably don't want anyone, a stranger or driver, to ever touch your food, right? So the experience side definitely is definitely gonna be huge, especially in a post-pandemic world of everyone prefers contactless deliveries. So a few things that we do that is going to make it very different in terms of experience. Aside from the fact that during the whole delivery journey, we manage the end-to-end process. So your food, your orders, your groceries are secure. There will be no other humans touching your food aside from the restaurant that prepares it. On top of that, there's a lot of things that we are doing right now. The touch screen on the robot, for example, creates a new kind of experience. For FedEx, we're using the touch screen to do signature delivery, right? So we can verify who you are and make sure that the right person gets a package. We are starting to do ID verification using the touchscreen and the camera. So for our core deliveries, or if you buy a new laptop and high value deliveries, we can verify your ID on the robots. And these are the types of things that humans are not necessarily amazing at, right? Verifying that you are the right person, verifying that the ID is correct, right? And we can do that much more seamlessly because we have the robot there that can actually verify these things. So definitely, experience is another important point when it comes to kind of redesigning mobility as a product.
Yeah, it's amazing that you get a user interface and some cameras and storage and put it on the road and locks and it seems like you're constantly discovering all the things you could potentially do.
I'll add one more fun thing that we are exploring with one of our partners. We have this space. We have a lot of space on our robot. And what we are experimenting right now is when people shop for certain things like shoes, right? Now all of a sudden we can bring plus and minus sizes on the shelf, right? So you can try, and because of robot, the marginal cost of operating a robot is low. The robot can wait there or around the block while you test out these shoes. We can actually present upsell opportunities where you buy shoes. We have another compartment where we stock them with socks and other products that you can use. Same for Domino's pizza delivery. We're delivering pizza to you. On another shelf, we have Coca-Cola to go with it that you can buy directly from the robot as well. And that's kind of the type of new experience, and I'm really excited about that. Might not be possible before with human deliveries.
Yeah, so I did want to kind of ask you what the inflection point of all of these factors coming together looks like. We have about 30 seconds, though, so I don't know how fair of a question that is to ask. I don't know. Is there a way you can sum that up really quick, kind of putting you on the spot?
I'll try. So we've done tens of thousands of real-world paid deliveries already. Moving forward, we recently broke ground on a final assembly facility in Las Vegas. So our partner is building vehicles, and we're doing the final assembly. And once this facility is done, thousands of robots are going to be able to roll off the assembly line per year. So this is happening. It's coming soon.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it, and can't wait to see where it all goes.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.